ทดสอบทดสอบ1 2 3 4ได้แล้วเนาะทดสอบ1 2 3 4เป็นไงทดสอบ1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 9 10
ห้องนี้ถ้าพูดเนาะ
อันนี้
ถ้าเกิด
ใช่
อ
ไหม
ยาก
คะ
ทำห้องตรงกลางถ้าเกิดว่าจะดูจออันใหญ่ก็ดูอันนู้นได้
ค่ะ
นะครับแต่ว่าถ้าเกิดพูดกับเขามองกล้อง
ค่ะ
ให้สัญญาณด้วย สวัสดีครับ Good morning everybody. Hello. Hello. Can you switch on your camera and say hello to me? Hello.
Hello.
Hello. How are you? Okay.
Hello.
Hi.
Okay. So
Fine.
Hello.
Fine. Hi.
hi there. สวัสดีครับ
สวัสดีครับ
สวัสดีค่ะ
Big top.
สวัสดีค่ะ
Okay. Welcome you all to the second day of the meeting. So today we're gonna put the principle and also the concept regarding to the relevant information with the royal cases regarding to the sufficiency economy philosophy. So today we have our honor guest speakers named Miss Thantita Nakontap. She's Director of Foreign Affairs Group from the Office of the Royal Development Project Boards. For her background, during the royal visit to the rural areas, His Majesty King Bhumibol Adulyadej, the King Rama IX, was accompanied by the officials from several government agencies whose duties related to development work and helping the people. Among them, there were the officials from our office, the Office of the Royal Development Project Boards, or ORDPB, which was set up in 1981 as the central coordinating agency for facilitating and combining all related agencies to work together smoothly in every process of planning and implementation of the Royal Development Project Board. So I'm going to give the time to Miss Thantita to give the outline of this morning session. Okay, go on.
Thank you very much, Dr. Nawasit. Yes, สวัสดีค่ะ Good morning from here. Today, we are very delighted to meet you and give a brief on the introductions of philosophy of sufficiency economies, which we will divide it into 3 parts or maybe 3 sessions. The first one will be about the philosophy of sufficiency economy, the history of it, the origin of it. And the second one will be about the Royal Initiative for Achieve SEP. The SEP is abbreviation of the philosophy of sufficiency economies. And the last one we will link about the SEP and the SDG goals. Okay. And before I'm talking or sharing you about the history of SEP, we would like to show you some 2 video clips.
Okay.
The first one will be the video clips of the would like to share, give you the clearer pictures of how His Majesty King Bhumibol Adulyadej the Great or King Rama IX, our the late king, work. And I would like to show you the first video depict the real situation that His Majesty the late king and all members of the royal family while they're working during the rural visit almost 40 years ago. It's the excerpts from the BBC documentary entitled The Souls of Nations. It's about 17 minutes. And after that will be followed by the video clips of the philosophy of sufficiency economies used the time about 10 minutes. And after that we will wrap up about the SEP and how His Majesty the King launched this principle, the concept to the people. Okay,
if you are ready, so we're gonna have the video for 27 minutes for 2 videos. So enjoy the video.
Looks and sounds like a command post. The king sees his main job as being with the rural poor, 85% of the Thai population. With his family, he works extremely hard on the solving of local living problems, constantly visiting the villages, listening to the villagers, and then, with his own money, starting projects in health, food production, irrigation, or education for villagers to run themselves. The royal family spend roughly 8 months of the year in this way. And there is no doubt that it is their presence in places like this which is Thailand's best defense against communist takeover.
We are looked at, and people are interested in us. They look at us. They don't want to bother us. They want to know more how they eat, how they sit, how they walk. They don't look with curiosity or hostility because they are very happy. You must know that they are well-wishing. They are well-wishing and they are on, say, intimate terms with us. It's like a big family. These people are looking at us because they like us, and we like them, we love them, they love us. So it doesn't make any, it is no pressure.
Kings and queens of Thailand have always been in close contact with the people, really, and they usually regard the kings as father of nation. That's why usually we don't have much private life, because we are considered father and mother of the nation. So naturally we are all the time with the people.
Among the uneducated rural poor, the king is a highly effective agent for change, precisely because of his popularity as king. King Bhumipon's full title is Great Strength of the Land.
The first thing is security. That is the security of the people. The Thai people have to fight for their freedom, for their independence. So the main thing is to be a good general. And then after that, when a country is more settled, it's to have law and order, law and administration. And after that, we must have, or at the same time, we must have enough food to eat, enough facility to have a good home, to have shelter and all that. These are essential things. And then we must have the social order and more things of the heart. That means that we must be good people, so that there would be disorder, because people who are good don't create trouble so much. So we must have religion. So the king is the leader of the religion.
Thailand, one of the last countries in the world still in touch with its past, where ancient traditions can be fruitfully adapted to the pressing needs of today. A well-loved king, worthy successor to distinguished ancestors, who uses his ritual sanctity and his personal popularity to get things done that will improve his people's welfare. All this, the king, the country's traditions, the people's welfare, are threatened with communist invasion. But with or without communism, the king sees his role as getting on with a job that needs doing.
Be
The king's convoy in action. It leaves more or less every day when he's in the regions and covers about 30,000 miles a year. He plans the trips himself and decides when to stop. Once people know that the king is going to pass their way, they lay out carpets in case he might stop. For the feet of a king are not supposed to touch the ground. This taboo, though no longer strictly held, is still exercised, particularly by the country people. The purpose of these tours is always twofold. On the one hand is the improvement in the people's welfare and the development which the king achieves, and this is certainly significant. On the other hand, there is his presence as king among the villagers. Before his visit, they may feel themselves neglected. In his presence, and after he has gone, they know that they are not. In 1 year, the king's convoy gave away to the rural poor 39,038 blankets, 30,778 towels, 31,010 monks' robes, 29,180 sweaters, 29,140 farmers' outfits, 20,340 children's outfits, 34,358 pupils' uniforms. One statistic the palace would not release was the number of lollipops given out, but it must be hundreds of thousands per year. The ladies-in-waiting act as social workers, taking extensive notes on every case so that each one can be followed up afterwards. This means typing up every night, and a lot of work when the court is returned to Bangkok. The King's Chief Information Officer coordinates them. There are a great number of administrative points to consider. For instance, if they take a child from a place like this to hospital in Bangkok, they have to take its family as well and feed and house them. No previous king had ever even visited the Northeast. King Bhumibol spent the first 10 years of his reign traveling very thoroughly through every district of the country so that he could see the problems in detail at first hand. This detailed knowledge now forms a base for rapidly expanding work in all kinds of development. Always the encouragement, listening to their problems, helping them to help themselves.
Did they have any particular problem they wanted you to?
No problem. They were very happy. And I asked in what temple they were going, and they said the name, and I looked in the map. And there is an old temple here, and they did not remember the name.
They seem to be very impressed with your geographical knowledge.
Oh, because they are very happy when somebody comes and knows about their village.
But you go everywhere with this map, I notice. It never, not this particular one, but
Yes,
there
yes,
is never a map from your hand.
I try to have a map so that I know where I'm going. And they are happy when they know that the official map is, the village is on their map.
Are there some occasions when people live in villages that aren't marked on your map or that have the wrong name?
Well, that is what happened now.
What is what happened?
There's a village that has no name, and I put a name on it.
In a sense, all official functions are, as it were, extras to the king's main job, his traveling development column. The convoy contains doctors, social workers, agricultural advisors, irrigation engineers, and other specialists as required. Which is more fundamental to the relief of the rural poor? Improved medical care for the sick, or better food for everyone? The two must go together. Better nutrition means better health. The king is well aware that Thailand could have enormously productive agriculture. The problem often comes down to making the best use of available water. There's either too little or too much. Wherever he goes, you will see soldiers. Especially near the border, there is always danger. A spotter plane flies overhead. This is one of the king's new dams. Irrigation is probably the aspect of development to which he contributes most. Apart from his boat with the rudderless engine, the king has designed dams and irrigation channels himself. He has initiated over 400 irrigation projects throughout Thailand, often combining them with the introduction of fisheries. The king instigates these projects, draws up detailed plans, persuades the government to finance them, but continues to take a personal interest in their construction and development. With his quick grasp of the subject, he always makes his experts work hard. And though he seems able to master almost anything he puts his hand to, it is probably the many facets of engineering for which he has the most talent. The king carries a two-way radio with him at all times. He is said even to sleep with it. This means that he's the first to hear of any crisis. But he seems oblivious to everything as he concentrates on the job in hand.
And helped by this water here. So this water we take here, and we must put a small dam here so that they'll have water here. The most important thing is that they should have rice in this area, which doesn't have to be marketed. They eat it. It is their subsistence. They will be able to have self-sufficiency in rice here, which they don't have now because last year, 2 years before, dry, no water.
What do you think the communist insurgents are telling people about schemes like this that you're involved in?
Depends on the one. Sometimes they will say that they are the initiators of this scheme. Sometimes they will say that this scheme is the devil's scheme. Depends on the man.
But in a sense, there's a bit of truth in that, because they might be claiming that were it not for all their action, you and the government wouldn't be doing these things here.
You like to pose this question. This is a half-truth. If they were not there, we would not have trouble. And we would have built this dam a long time ago. But if, because they are there, we must take the trouble to come here, because the people who built this, they want to have some encouragement.
You're saying that this is evidence that you're winning?
Winning against what?
Communist insurgency.
Oh, I don't know. But we are winning against hunger. This is what we are doing. We are not fighting against people. We are fighting against hunger. We want to have them have a better life. If we make this and they have a better life, the people you call communist insurgent will have a better life also. So everybody is happy.
And so on into the night. Impossible not to be overwhelmed by the energy of this man who works round the clock for his people. What must he think of us, technology-cosseted Westerners? The Queen told us that we could never capture his life on film because we, with our union rules, would never work the hours that he does. Such powers of concentration, such radiant energy. An army camp. These soldiers have been waiting all day for the king's arrival, That is often the case, but the Thais do not mind waiting. It is still such an honor to see the king. Presents to the soldiers. The hand flick which the soldier gives before he receives the parcel is a gesture of politeness made only to the king, queen, and royal princes or princesses of the highest rank. It is, as it were, a gesture of asking permission to receive direct from the royal hand. After the day's visible work and activities are over, the king can spend 4, 5, or even 6 hours alone in his study at night, surrounded by teleprinters, radio sets tuned into police or army frequencies, and other communication devices. He debriefs himself on the day and plans tomorrow's trip.
Could you explain what you're doing with these maps, please?
If I see something, you see circles there, places that can be developed, and you can see a place there with a red thing there. It's a kind of for damming and for making a small reservoir. And then when there are the engineers, the irrigation engineer, I can ask them if it is practical to do that. And sometimes they go and then inspect the place and can have a survey on the spot.
Why do you have all these radio sets everywhere, all these receivers, transmitters, telexes? What are they all for?
Well, communication. I think that you should know that radio is for communication. I don't have television here.
Now, I've heard people say that this is your personal intelligence network.
I wouldn't say intelligence, but sometimes it is very, very useful. Sometimes when you know about the news of some disaster hitting somewhere, you can help them very quickly, and that speed is the most important factor. So that I get the news by the telex or by the radio. Most of what you hear here it doesn't concern me. It's sometimes there is a murder somewhere. Sometimes I can have some news of they have caught a caravan of heroin or something like that. It is better than to listen to the broadcast or other things.
When you sit here by yourself for several hours every evening, looking at your maps and listening to the radios, is that because you are a lonely man, or because you need to have some time by yourself after all the public side of your life outside?
That is a question that can be answered in many ways. I'm not lonely, and I have work to do, so I have to do the work. The way of doing work is to have some concentration, that is, in some peace, and then one can think more clearly. It is a way of preparing myself to be able to do whatever circumstances will have me to do. I gather information by listening. I gather information by looking at the maps, or reading, or thinking. And then when time comes, I have the material in my head.
These pictures clearly demonstrate the simple and down-to-earth gestures of the developer king, who's happy to work with his very own hands. Above all is His Majesty the King's heartfelt concern for the suffering of his subjects. With this, he willingly devotes himself to working side by side with his subjects in the remote areas, in order to help them have a better standard of living, to have enough to live and to eat, and most importantly, to be self-reliant. His Majesty the King emphasizes strengthening the community in each area. When the community is strong enough to become self-reliant, the development then spreads to a wider scale. This is a step-by-step development approach, starting small and growing larger. This coincides with the royal speeches given by His Majesty the King on various occasions. He repeatedly suggested that his subjects at all levels, ranging from the family, the community, to the state, which is responsible for administering the country, to plan making decisions and implement activities based on moderation, reasonableness, and self-immunity, in order to be ready for any unexpected changes. In any case, a strong social foundation must be created before carrying out the next stages of development, which must be done according to actual potential rather than pursuing a leaping but unsustainable growth, as reflected in His Majesty's speech given on the 18th of July 1974. Development of the nation must be carried out in stages, starting with the laying of the foundation by ensuring that the majority of people have their basic necessities through the use of economical means and equipment in accordance with theoretical principles. Once a reasonably firm foundation has been laid, in effect, higher levels of economic growth and development should be promoted. This royal speech has become the mould for the philosophy of sufficiency economy, which represents the guiding light to help the Thai people and society to survive through the hard times of the 1997 economic crisis. To be a tiger is not important. The important thing for us is to have a self-supporting economy. A self-supporting economy means to have enough to survive. The royal speech of His Majesty the King on the 4th of December 1997 made many sectors in the Thai society take one step back and review their past lifestyles. Many began to have more understanding and realization of the idea of sufficiency economy, which includes moderation, prudence, and reasonableness, which means neither too much nor too little, while not placing burdens upon oneself or taking advantages of other people. At the same time, it is necessary to think reasonably before engaging in any operations, and create self-immunity in order to be ready for the impacts from changes in the future. Equally crucial, one has to use knowledge, prudence, and morality, such as honesty, perseverance, and effort in planning, making decisions, and in all aspects of life. Although his royal guidance gained a great deal of popularity at the time, if we look back, we would see that His Majesty the King has long been adhering to and practicing the philosophy of sufficiency economy in his efforts to develop the living conditions of the villagers and farmers in the countryside. This is evident in over 3,000 royal development projects and the 6 royal development study centres located throughout Thailand. The problems of land for agriculture, water shortage, the deterioration of the natural resources, and the lack of correct agricultural knowledge were the main obstacles impeding the life of the farmers. Furthermore, the problems in each area vary according to local geographical conditions. Therefore, in order for the farmers in each region to learn about practical agricultural techniques and means to solve their problems in actual situations. His Majesty the King graciously initiated the establishment of 6 Royal Development Study Centres scattered throughout all the regions of the country, beginning in 1979. The Royal Development Study Centres serve as the places for conducting research, studies and experiments to obtain guidelines and development methods that are suitable as well as beneficial for the lives of the local people in each area. The successful results are demonstrated to the farmers in the form of a living natural museum. Each centre provides a one-stop service by gathering activities and different government officials to work together to provide services to the general public comprehensively and effectively. Importantly, the farmers and the people in the community can apply the acquired knowledge and technology in real life to make a living, to have enough to live and to eat, as well as to become self-reliant based on the idea of sufficiency economy. After this has been achieved, the farmers can form groups to build a solid foundation for the community and later the country as a whole to step forward on a sustainable path. The New Theory farming practice is the royal initiative under the concept of the philosophy of sufficiency economy, which each centre gives importance to and encourages the farmers to follow in order for them to achieve stability in making a living, as well as a state of self-reliance and self-sufficiency. New Theory farming is the guideline for proper management of land and water resources to create optimum benefits for farmers who own a small piece of land. This is based on the calculation of the quantity of water which should be stored to be enough for agricultural activities all year round. The Royal Initiative on New Theory farming is divided into 3 phases. The New Theory Phase 1 aims to make the farmers able to effectively manage water, land, crops, capital and labour in order to achieve a high level of produce and income throughout the year. According to His Majesty the King, the land should be divided into 4 parts, with a ratio of 30-30-30-10. The first 30% is designated for a pond to store water to avoid the risk of a water shortage. The second 30% is set aside for rice cultivation, which can provide sufficient yields for daily consumption all year round. Another 30% is used to grow fruit trees, perennial trees and field crops in an integrated manner, which can provide for daily consumption, and the surplus can be sold. The remaining 10% is allocated for housing and other useful structures. The New Theory Phase 1 is the fundamental principle of sufficiency economy by promoting the farmers to have self-immunity and to become self-sufficient and self-reliant. This helps build a solid base for the farmers and their families before moving forward. Once each family within the farming community has a stable living condition, they can then proceed to the New Theory Phase 2, in which they pool their efforts and resources in the form of a group or a cooperative to create benefits for the community at large. The activities include product development and marketing, as well as helping out one another in order to improve the quality of life of the members of the group and creating unity among them. After unifying the efforts and achieving community strength, the farmers group can then move on to implement the New Theory Phase 3, which involves making the necessary contacts and coordination with other agencies such as banks or companies. The purpose is to seek support for further investments in product development and to negotiate for fair and reasonable prices for the produce, which satisfy both sides. This is a step-by-step development in order to ensure that the farmers first become self-reliant and have a stable living before expanding the development to the wider community and society at large in a balanced and sustainable manner. Today, The new theory farming and the philosophy of sufficiency economy have become the main practices in the life of farmers in many areas and regions.
Yes.
Okay, I think you enjoy the video and see the background of the theory for a little bit at the initial. So I'm gonna give my time to the guest speaker to say something and try to wrap up and expand something regarding to the sufficiency economy philosophy. Okay.
Thank you very much, Doctor. So I think the two video clips very useful for you to understand both the background of the patterns of work of His Majesty the late King Bhumibol, and you can have a chance to hear the voice or the message from himself. For example, there's the keyword for the developments of Thailand under the scope of the Royal Development Project. As you see that maybe more than 40 years ago, Thailand is very small and quite poor country. We suffer more than nowadays. And how His Majesty works, so you have a chance to hear some keywords and some sentence from himself. For example, the necessary thing to help people is for the security. Security is the freedom and independence of the Thai people, and food security is very important for him, and social security as well, the law and order, or mean law and administration. So two key things. And but the first thing that he done is the food security, because he thinks that people have to have enough to eat, and so when people have enough to eat, they will have a good brain and good health to do anything. And one thing that he believes is he would like to make the people to be the good people, because the good people don't create much trouble. And the key concept, another key concept is to help people to help themselves. That means you can live up their life sustainably. And so the second one is the step-by-step development is the key concept of His Majesty work, doing from the small and going to the larger. That is a very important. That's why you will understand the SEP concept very well. We will be step by step, going gradually. It means the moderation, and very important things to hear from the first video is the winning against hunger is the key things as well for who make people to have the better life. And so and the pattern style of His Majesty is even he work hard from the daytime to the rural area, and after that when he back to the palace, he used maybe 4 or 6 hours to gather the facts, the real information, and to design or to planning to the next day or the tomorrow that what they gonna do or change the plan to create the projects. And you see in the video clips, it shows the irrigation projects. This is very important for that time and nowadays as well, because if you have enough water source, you will have more chance to do more activities, and means more and more occupations for the farmers or for all people. That's why the irrigation projects is the maybe majorities of the use of the number of the Royal Development Project as well. And okay, for the next video, for the second video is show you the concept, whole concept of SEP, the meaning of itself, and also the application we show a little bit of the New Jersey farming practice and the 6th Royal Development Study Center, which 2 point I will talk it later in the second part. But for the SEP, you heard that actually it's happened. His Majesty warned people in Thailand since 1974. And so, but it's well known. It's helped Thai people again in 1997 when the crisis of economics. But to understand more, you have to see, actually His Majesty is the role model of SEP himself. But for a little bit wrap up, is the sufficiency economics is the philosophy. That means you have to understand it first and apply it into yourself. This philosophy, His Majesty the King quite like emphasis or imply it from the middle path from the Buddhist teaching. The middle path, it means the moderations and reasonableness. It means it's warning. It's like a warning yourself to see back into yourself that you have to careful to live your life, and it means the caution and careful. In Buddhist, we have one warning that we have to no careless in run our life. It means so in the sufficiency economy is very emphasized on the moderation and reasonableness. Not just only moderation, not only the not too much or little, too little, but you have to have the reasonableness to decide on thinking or making decision or perform actions, not to harm to other people and not to harm to ourselves, to yourself as well. And another key thing is the self-immunity, because this philosophy is warning people, because actually we have to face the uncertainties, circumstance or situations. It means shock or a change that we cannot avoid sometimes. But if you have self-immunity in yourself, so it means that you can, when you cannot avoid, but after the crisis shock you, you can recover yourself by just use a little help of the outside, or mean a little help of the government. That means if your country, your people got this concept, you have to have a self-reliance and rely on themselves on the thing that they can do. And so the government will be less work to do. They can do the big thing. So because the people or citizens, they have themselves. And another thing that's another two things is very important, is different from the another economics, is the morality. It's very important in SEP. You have to have the like sharing sense of sharing is very important. Honesty and perseverance and intelligence, and also awareness of the change to help people, and merciness is very important as well. Like you have to have a good heart, good people to success the SEP and to apply the SEP successfully. Another thing is knowledge. It's very important, because without knowledge, you cannot have the good reasonableness, right? So you have to have the the knowledge. It's not it doesn't mean that only the education, but it's a proper knowledge, appropriate knowledge. For example, even farmers, they have to have the enough knowledge and information to calculate, to decide what they want to do, and not like do because the other people do. They have to decide by them, by look back to themselves. Like for example, they have to reasonableness and knowledge to estimate themselves how labor they have in their farms, how money they got in their family, how many they can invest, or how they land, how the quality of the soil, how much water source that they got, for example. And when you got that thing, you have to be step-by-step development in yourself and gain more knowledge. And even in His Majesty the King, King Bhumibol Adulyadej the Great, he himself used the SEP by his doing. We back into the 70 years ago when Thailand is very small country and poor, but on the other hand, we have abundance of the natural resource. We have happiness in terms of a close family, good socials. But at that time, you have to think about a 18 years old young king who grows in the Western country like Switzerland, and he interesting in the science and technology and engineering. But when he have a very huge burden to take care of his kingdom, His Majesty the King want to gain the knowledge of his kingdom and his people. But he changed the study from the scientist to be learned in the law and political science in order to handle his big missions. And so we will take a look in the first 15 years of his reign, about 1946 to 1960. He gained more knowledge by seeing video clips. He visited the real situation and see the real and solve the real problems of his subject, that means his people, and think what he should done first, step by step. And he also talking, as you saw in the video clip, talking to the people in the first-hand data. And he also gained the information and data from the document as well. Not only one way. He had gathered around, and he once said that most Thai are living in poverty at that time. So when he gained the knowledge, he have to make a royal development project. But before that, he had conduct and test and experiment, as well as before launch the project before establish any royal developments. For example, in the past, he used his own palace, Chislada Palace compound, as his private study to study, research, experimentations project by using his own fund as well. And when the successful result would yield a great benefit to the people, will pass on to the government for further consideration of application, and many have to become an origin of the Royal Development Project as nowadays. And he had to make sure there were regular follow-ups. Sometimes he follow up is by himself and by his monarchy. And this project, no matter large or small, aim to balancing the economic, social development and conservation of natural resources and the environmental. King Rama IX Development Project based on morality, to knowledge and understanding of the situations, the developments of the visions of King Rama IX create security and progress for the people and the nation. It was a gradual process, not too large. I mean the step-by-step development for make the people to have enough to eat and to live. It is the first thing that you have to achieve when you help people. And these royal principles are in line with the philosophy of sufficiency economies. Therefore, it can be said that, in fact, His Majesty King Bhumibol Adulyadej the Great had been adhere the SEP all along, and SEP is the underlying principle behind the implementations of all royal development projects as well. So when I talked about His Majesty himself, now we take a look back to the wrong directions of the Thai government at maybe 60 years ago. That's why it's had consequence to the huge and very big impact and a crisis on 1997 Back about the 60, in the 60, government at that time aimed the Thailand to be industrialized and westernized by emphasizing on the development of industrial sector, economic growth, but didn't realize that Thailand economy was based on agriculture and the backbone of the country was for farmers. In the capitalism, small economic countries prefer big volume for money. Therefore, we have to choose the export orientation policy. And when export orientation policy, we change the pattern of the cultivation from diversification, small farmers to be like a monocropping, because we want to big volume of the production, rice and corn, cassava or whatever. The next thing that farmers have to do, they have to cut the forest in order to have the enough area to do. So we have the logging business that already cut down the tree, the forest already, but we have to face with the problem that the expansion, the cultivation area into the forest, so that's why the forest area is become less. And then the second thing is soil degradation. And also when we want to the big volume, huge volumes of the production from the westernized, they suggest us to use the chemical, right? Because it's fast move. So when you use the chemicals and pesticides, it make a negative impact later, like soil degradation, pollute to the air and also in the water. And when the city, when at that time we became an industrialized country, so the city has expanded. It's make many pollution, water pollution, air pollution come from the factories, many things that we know that. And also in the social impact, it's become because we want to be rich, but the majority of people is poor. That's why the more income gap happen in Thailand. So people who are poor in the farm sections, the young generation move into the city because they want to gain a lot of money, but they forget what they have. And so they forget the family because they want to get the money, and the thing is not be like they design. And what happened is we have a lot of social problems and environmental problems. This problem impact to Thailand as well. And that's why in 1974, it was the first time that His Majesty officially warned both government and Thai people. But in that time, we still have a growth there. So government at that time or might not listen to the warning, because at that time our economic growth 7 to 8%, about 80s, end of 70s to the beginning of 80s. We have the economic growth to 7 to 8%, and okay. The mainstream development approach aimed to the high GDP rate. Money represents the success. The government strives to become the industrialized and internationalized. We want to be the fifth tiger of Asia and the newly industrial country or next. That's why His Majesty said that it's not important to be the tiger. And the Thai people ways of life also burdenized, globalized with the luxury spending and eagerness of the office job, and offer high salary while delink themselves of their local identity and culture. And that time, because we moved in the agricultural sector, we changed to produce as the monocropping. Can you believe that Thailand, the farmers, they grew rice, but they didn't have the rice to eat themselves because all the things to export. That's why it's very insecure in the family. That's why many young generations leave their farms because they saw it's not benefit. They move to the city. And so, and at the, what happened when in 1997, it's like the very bad impact comes. What happened in Thailand is an economic collapse. It just only 4 decades from the fast legless policy to be rich and to be a tiger. The Thailand faced one of the most serious economic crises in history. It's called Tom Yam Kung crisis. It impacts to all Asian countries. It's like a domino effect. That's why His Majesty warning that this is the change, the shock from economic uncertainty. That's why we have to have the self-immunity in the SEP. And this shock affect to all Thai people, all social classes. Living one life become difficult because of crime and the spread of the drug and the social problem. That's why in the 4th December in 1997, end of the year, the eve of his birthday, he warning us again about sufficiency economic, as I told you. And so when Thailand in the video clip also said we step back and just doing step by step, doing little by little. Yes, why we come back to the farms? Because Thailand is agricultural country, right? Actually, people, the young people in the city, actually they have the capital, but they didn't aware. So when they know where to go, so they come back to their farms, and that's why the new theory farming is the SEP in practice come to help them. And also the 6th Royal, that's why His Majesty prepare 6th Royal Development Study Center, the knowledge-based center, to prepare his people to against about the change. But I will talk later in the second session. But I will say that not only Thailand, so now today that accept the SEP concept. In 2002, SEP has been widely recognized and become main policies of our country. The core components of the 9th and 12th National Economics and Social Development Plans that we used in 2002 to 2021. Yes, but for internationally, in 2006, the former Secretary General Kofi Annan present the United Nations First Human Development Lifetime Achievement Award to His Majesty King Bhumibol Adulyadej the Great, King Rama IX. The great for tireless effort to help poorest and most vulnerable people in his kingdom as the examples to the world. And some you will see on the slide that maybe the quote that Miss are there in the slide. Okay, I will quote some. Wait, anymore.
Hello. Hello.
I think we can hear
Hello.
each other, but we cannot hear the teachers. Hello? Yes, that's true.
Hello.
Hello.
Yeah, we are getting the teacher now.
Hi.
Hello.
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 Hello. Yeah, I can hear
I can hear
everybody,
you
but not
now.
the presenters. The
Yes,
presenters
me
are not
too.
presenting.
Hello. Hello.
Hi. Yeah, I'm hearing you. Yes, I can hear all of you. Yeah.
What happened?
Hello.
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 Yeah,
Hi,
everybody.
Hassan. Hassan.
What happened? What
Hello.
happened?
Hello.
Are we in some kind of break now?
Don't know what happened.
Hello.
I
Okay.
think
Okay.
they lost. Okay.
We lost the connection. Hello.
Everyone, we have 10-minute break.
Okay. Okay. 10-minute break.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay, see you
Break
guys
time.
soon. Yeah.
Yeah.
See you.
Okay, see you.
Okay.
Yeah.
See
Okay.
you.
Break
Okay.
time. Okay.
Okay. Bye bye.
Okay, see you soon.
Oh. Somebody. Oh.
Okay. See you.
ทดสอบ1 2 3 4ทดสอบ1 2 3 4ทดสอบ1 2เทส1 2ทดสอบทดสอบทดสอบ1 2 3 4 5 6ทดสอบทำไมทดสอบ
coming. In order to
ไม่ออกเลย ไม่เป็นไรเปิดอันนั้นใช้เสียงอันอื่น
ฮัลโหลนุ้ยได้ยินไหมพี่บุได้ยินไหม1 2 3 4ทดสอบ1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8พี่หนูทดสอบ1 2 3 4ทดสอบ1 2 3 4 5 6
ดสอบหนึ่งอ้าวได้แล้ว เอาใหม่ลองปิดหูฟังทดสอบ1 2 3 4ได้ไหมเทสทดสอบ1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 9 101 2 3เสียงกล้องอยู่นะฮัลโหล4 5 6 7 5 6 7 8 9เสียงกล้องอยู่นะ5 6 7 8 9 10